Most people assume that aircraft simply just follow GPS lines like a car would on Google Maps. In reality, navigation in the skies is a layered system involving procedures such as radio beacons, automation modes, and human monitoring. In this video, we'll break down exactly what happens in the cockpit during a normal flight. So here's the question. How do pilots actually stay on course? Well, there's this system called the invisible highway. These highways contain routes for jets. So, for example, before a pilot goes and flies his flight, he files a flight plan. This flight plan has many different waypoints and airways. These waypoints and airways, when they're added up and connected, create like basically a path. Kind of on Google Maps, if you were to put in directions to your house, it would give a full whatever you call it, line to your house, and each turn, let's say, is called a waypoint. Same thing in the air. Each turn is called a waypoint. So all these waypoints add up to one direction, which is heading towards your destination. Most people are wondering why planes don't fly direct to and from the destination. Well, the reason behind that is because sometimes aircraft have to go around storms due to weather and stuff. Sometimes it's just how the airline wants them to travel, you know? They can't really just go straight. I mean, it feels like it, but it's really not happening. So that's also why they have to do that. Plus, you have air traffic control, which we'll get into later on in the video. But you have air traffic control, which does override all flight plans and systems, so the pilots have to listen to air traffic control no matter what. Along with the waypoints and the airways, these are also sometimes used for an aircraft's approach or just their ordinary flying. So for example, let's say we have a flight plan, we've imported it into the computer of the aircraft, and we take off and we initiate autopilot, okay? So there are 3 layers of navigation in the air, which are RNAV/GPS, so that's basically your regular autopilot in the air. And then you have your ground navigation aids, and then you also have your, so going back to the ground navigation aids, basically those could be things such as the ILS, or RNAV approaches, VNAV, no, there's no VNAV, but then there's localizer approaches, things like that, yeah? If you guys don't know what those are, I'll cover them in a different video or something, you know? But anyhow, the last, the last navigation layer is air traffic controllers. So air traffic controllers, they have authority over everything. If, let's say, you're following your flight plan, the aircraft is in autopilot in the air and you're cruising, but then the air traffic controller tells you, hey, you gotta turn heading 290, then you gotta turn heading 290. You can't stay on your flight plan. You must listen to what they say because it is for your safety and for everyone else's safety. And the air traffic controllers do know what they're doing because they have eyes on all the aircraft in the air. That's what's very important. And after they tell you 290, maybe after a few moments, like maybe they had to move you out of the way for an aircraft that was oncoming, they'll probably tell you right after that, hey, so-and-so this, turn heading 250 or something, resume navigation, or they would probably say, continue or direct, you are cleared direct to the waypoint, whatever that waypoint is. So then they would get you back on your flight plan. But when you are on your flight plan, you must be ready to like literally turn away and, follow ATC's instructions. So let's get into what the pilot actually does during the flight, right? So usually, before the flight and during the flight, they are constantly inputting new updated things into the FMS, which is also called the flight management system. So that FMS holds all the flight data that the aircraft needs to calculate its weight and everything it needs to perform a good, flight. Without certain data, I don't think the aircraft would be able to make it to the destination. Really, it's just the weight that needs to be set so that the aircraft can take off successfully. So usually after takeoff, the pilot would engage LNAV and VNAV mode, which controls its lateral and vertical navigation. They would also have auto thrust on, but even though they have auto thrust and autopilot on the entire flight, it does not mean that they can just go to sleep and do whatever they want. You can't do that. It's one, it's illegal, and two, well, actually, it's straight up illegal. So, like, literally, you can't do that, and you would not get anywhere, and it's not good for the aircraft, not good for you. You don't want to do that. So, what are they doing then, right? So they're basically monitoring fuel, the engine levels, um, checking in and making sure the passengers are doing good. Well, that's the flight crew. Well, that's the like flight attendants' responsibilities. But they're checking in on them, making sure the back is doing okay. Like calling the back probably, but they're mainly listening to ATC, listening for instructions, all sorts of things that will keep them awake and keep them busy, which is what they're supposed to be doing, right? So let's say that you are cruising at 32,000 feet, and you are the pilot, and you have autopilot on, everything's good, and then ATC calls and texts and tells you, hey, you guys need to turn, or you guys need to turn left heading 250 because of some weather that's coming. Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure the pilots would already see the weather. Well, not see it out the window, but like see it on their radar and stuff, or they would have got an alert or something like that. I'm not really sure how it works. I'm not that knowledgeable about that, but something like that would happen. There's weather, ATC tells you turn this way, and you do that. So you have to listen to it. You have to you can keep autopilot engaged, but you would have to turn on the whatever you call it, the MCP mode control panel. You got to turn that heading to the right heading that they told you to do. Then you got to have the aircraft turn that way. You are going off your flight plan. That's totally fine. That's what you're required to do. So like I said earlier, ATC always, 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 always tells you what to do, no matter what. If you're on a flight plan, doesn't matter. You gotta turn left, turn right, whatever you gotta do. Descend, ascend. ATC has authority, and they know what they're doing, so follow what they're doing. Okay, so currently I am loading into the simulator, or it's called Microsoft Flight Simulator, and I'm gonna give you guys a little bit example, kind of what it looks like. I know I already have footage showing you guys what it looks like, but this will make it more realistic and a little bit more in person and real time. Here we are. All right, guys. So we are now in Microsoft Flight Simulator, and I'm gonna just show you. So, as an example, so if you look down here, this here is called the FMC. This is where you would input your flight plan. So let's say I had a flight plan imported already and all the things are set. We would turn on LNAV and VNAV, but they're not turning on right now because you have no flight plan. But it's fine. Let's go in the air and let's pretend like LNAV and VNAV are on. And then I want to show you guys how I would control my speed and my heading and how ATC could override any of my calls. As you can see, these screens are turned off, but that's okay. We don't really need them. This is our aircraft. Just ignore the screens. I'm sorry. I just loaded up really quickly, you guys, but it's fine. So let's turn off the parking brake. Is it released or? All right, let's go. Full throttle. Alrighty. So when we get in the air, let's we'll continue flying straight for just a moment, and then let's pretend like ATC has told us that we have to. Oh, there goes our screens. And we'll pretend, whoa, that Southwest is Southwest taxiing. Wow. And we'll pretend like ATC tells us to turn heading right 250 or something, I don't care. And then we'll actually turn that way. And it's basically just turning basically, but it gives you more of a good sense of it. Gear up. Okay. So let's climb a little more, guys. Flaps up. It's a wonderful aircraft, guys. Okay. So let's say we are so right now we're at heading 128, somewhere around there. Alright, so let's say we're at heading 126, and ATC says Alaska 1168, turn left, heading 090, okay? And I would respond, turn left, heading 090, Alaska 1168. So after I hear that, and after I respond, I have to go over here. Well, actually, let's input autopilot here, altitude hold. Alright, so now, here's what I'm going to do. After I say that, we got to change this thing to 090. And after that, you must click heading select. So now, as you can see, the aircraft turns left towards that heading, alright? So basically, when you're in the air, or when a pilot is flying with his fellow co-pilot, which I don't have currently, unfortunately, they cannot go to sleep. They can't go to sleep because why? Why? It's because air traffic control might tell them, hey, there's a literal aircraft in front of you, even though they have like alerts for this. There's a literal aircraft in front of you. There's a storm in front of you. Whatever it is, they're going to tell you to turn left. If you don't see it, they're going to tell you to turn left, right? So you have to be awake in order to input that into the aircraft, right? Not only that, you have the engines you have to monitor, because like what if the engines just shut off? Look, they just shut off and I'm sleeping and I don't even know it, right? And then the aircraft's just going to go down, right? And then everything bad just starts happening. So that's not good, right? We don't want that. We do not want that to happen. So this is why people or pilots need to be awake, which they are, which they always do, which is great. I'm just showing you guys exactly why they must stay awake. So that's basically a sum of the whole why do pilots have to stay awake. Thank you guys for watching. Just make sure you guys know, or just make sure you guys remember, flying isn't about going straight from a departure point and to a destination. It's more about kind of balancing automation, using navigation systems, and trying to get there safely, right? You can't just go direct there. It's about safety and following the flight plan and everything. So just kind of to show you guys that there's a literal flight plan behind all of this. It's not just the pilots flying direct there, right? I hope you guys learned something new. I hope I learned something new. Make sure to learn something new every day. Other than that, I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.